Hello and welcome to the Mysticast, where you join me, Jack Stafford, a student of metaphysics, as I talk to a variety of guests to better understand the teachings given by the masters through the Aetherius Society, the new cosmic religion for the Aquarian Age, incorporating all yogas, Christian mysticism, theosophy, UFOs, and much, much more. Please note that this is an independent program, not produced or fact-checked by the Aetherius Society. Today, my guest is Claar. Did I say that right? Is it Claar?
Yes, Claire is how my father pronounced it, but Claar is the more correct pronunciation.
Because I remember from my time in the Netherlands, it was always Claar.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is it a Dutch name originally?
It is.
Okay. So, well, one of my last guests was Preston Dennett, who was a UFO. You know Preston?
Yes, he put me in one of his books.
Really?
Yeah, one of my ET healings.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
well, we'll have to get into that. But he was so fascinating. And then we got into, because I asked him about UFOs, and then I didn't realize he'd done out-of-body OBEs as well. And I just bought his book. It's just arrived. I haven't read it yet.
Nice.
And he out-of-body exploring, a beginner's approach, and then he recommended this one, Journeys Out of the Body by Robert Monroe. So I thought I'd speak to you and get some more insights.
A really interesting connection there, just because you mentioned Preston, is the way we actually connected was through a relative of his, Christine Dennett, who is an ET artist. And it's actually Christine, my connecting with Christine, that turned on my skill with the crystal.
Wow.
When I saw what she was doing with her ET artwork, I mean, my heart exploded. It was like I felt like if I could just do something like that to add a visual to the out-of-body experiences and contact experiences I've had, I could begin to make it more real. But I have absolutely zero artistic talent. And when I say zero, I mean absolutely zero. And when we connected, a very interesting out-of-body experience ensued, in which that night, as I laid myself down, I consciously shifted out into galactic space. And all night long, 5, 6, 7 hours, I was actually at a job and working when this happened. But ET after ET after ET came forward and presented in front of me along the backdrop of the star system it was from. They would just come up and then begin to rotate so I could get a really good look. And when this night completed, I had the skill with the crystal. And I began to just see moving pictures, in them, and, doing this with my eyes and making sure I was actually seeing what I was seeing. I had my phone sitting right next to the crystal the very first time it happened. And so I checked my eyes with the camera and I took a picture, and there they were. I was just ever since have been working with that skill, but it was actually my connection with Christine that activated the capacity within me. And actually the initial capacity is a capacity that I seem to have for deep level connection and integration of others' skills just into my own neural networking. I've always been able to do this.
Casey, I mean, we just jumped right in there off the bat, and my head's spinning already, and we've got to do this for an hour. So let's slow down, because you exist in this space, but for the rest of us, it's a lot to take in. I mean, So what do you see in the crystals? You can see history, or they use them as a crystal ball, or is it type of the history of the crystal, or what?
All of the above, really.
Wow.
So there's a record in the rocks, and yes, I can read the record. So sort of like an Akashic record that's in the record of the rock that I can just visually see. So one of the very first things that began happening with me, and I didn't realize it was anything out of the norm because I had spent so much of my life alone, not really speaking to anyone. But I have light that appears in my visual field that, according to others, does not appear in theirs. So I quote, see things. Yeah. And the first thing that I realized I could see was the space itself. So I have this sort of reverse vision where I see things last. For the first thing I see is space, and I can see the particles that compose space. I can isolate any of those particles.
Is it like the Matrix, like when Neo sees the?
Well, just imagine a light just appearing there in front of you, a tiny pinpoint of light. But as you give it your attention to it, it seems to come closer and opens out into more detail. And the more you give your attention, the more detail, the more dimension that opens up to you. And it's a way of consciously shifting out of body, really. What happens is the space between me and that particle goes away until there's a contact, a connection, a union with me and that particle. And I'm taken into who that particle is, where that particle is living, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, all kinds of things, just sort of depending on what its function is. And so the visual phenomena for me always existed way before the awakening in my 44th year. So that was always there. That was always in place. I just didn't cognize that it was anything. I didn't cognize that this stuff didn't happen with other people. Yeah, it's really interesting how my cognition of things finally came online. And we could probably even say that the awakening that occurred when I was 44 was an activation of my capacity to cognize and hold these things in my awareness for longer than a moment. And maybe even most especially cognize that it was different than what was happening with most others, that it wasn't normal.
Wow. And so with the crystals, you can see, is it a type of psychometry? Do you see what's happened, who people have handled the crystal before, their memories?
I can do that, yes. What I see, what fascinates me, what captures my attention when this is happening is what I simply call a kaleidoscope. My vision turns into a sort of kaleidoscopic effect, and a level of light, an amplification of light, a certain feeling of the light comes on at that point. Yeah, and it will just, there's no holding me away from that. I'm a moth to a flame with it.
Wow. Okay. So maybe go ahead, please go ahead.
And this kaleidoscopic effect, let me say, just like the room here, the same thing can happen just to the space that I'm in. I don't require the crystal. What it is we're really doing with the crystal is transferring the contents of my own awareness through the mean of the crystal. We're amplifying that through the crystal and snapshotting it with a camera for others to see. So really, it's just a transferring of my own consciousness through the crystal, which is an amplification tool for others to see.
Okay.
And so that was how we came up with showing people the visuals. Having no artistic skill for painting and things like this, I do seem to have a networking of lifetimes that work with crystals.
And so other people can see into the crystals as well once you've opened it, or?
Let's see.
How do you communicate it with other people?
Well, they see the pictures. I show them the snapshots. I'm able to snapshot what I'm seeing for other people to see. So they look at the pictures.
Oh, you take a photo?
I take a photo.
So it's a visual thing into the crystal.
Yes, I can actually take a
Ah,
picture. And what I like to take the pictures of, because nobody else can see anything else. Took me years. I'm like, you can't see that? It's like right there. But nobody else seemed to be able to see. Let me say, only one or two others were able to see at that level. So what I like to snapshot are what I call ET portraits, big old face shots. I just go in and go in and go into the kaleidoscopic effect I'm experiencing until I begin to see eyes. And then I know that they're there, but I'm seeing so much more that's going on than just the being that, I just snap photos and
and so that works with an ordinary camera.
just my ordinary cell phone camera. Yeah.
Ah, so
It's even,
you imagine
yeah,
I'm just trying to get a grip of it. So
yeah.
you look into the crystal and you can search for anything in your mind, and it could be projected into the crystal. And then once it's in the crystal, it's big enough, you take a photo with your camera.
Something like that. Yeah. It's more of a feeling. It's visceral. It's through the whole feel, meaning I'm aware of it. It has an energetic experience that comes on me, just like when I'm going out of body. So mostly it's a feeling. It's visual for me because I am highly visual and
Mm.
I'm able to see so many my visual field is much further than the human visible spectrum. So my vision is telescopic and microscopic. I can zoom in, I can zoom out, just anywhere I want to go. I forgot what the question was.
Wow, it's just, I mean, what a tool. So you can take photos of through time as well, from also from things that happened and things that might happen, or
All through time. Yes. In fact, one of the very first things that came through the crystal was a frame that was depicting my birth into the earth life. And in this frame is my newborn self. And up in the corner is a man I know in OBE circles and no further, up in the corner looking down at me. In the background is my earth mom and dad. And in the foreground is a ET conical headed male and an earth human looking female. This is an Atlantean couple. So a lot of concepts will come through. I was told about the Anunnaki and the Enki Enlil story. That was the next, and that was a huge download through the crystal. Yeah, it took me a year to research, all of that and the concepts that were coming through. I've been taken into ancient Egypt and shown trons that existed. And the utter destruction was depicted in that one. So yes, so much comes through. Anything comes through. I don't really go in for it. There's always an ongoing dialogue beneath the physical scene. So like I'm always in here talking to somebody, as I'm going about doing other things. This is another level of this whole thing, is I'm able to be in more than one field simultaneously at the same time. Even right here, right now, I'm aware of myself back there talking with somebody about what it is we're saying. They're meeting, there's, congregating and talking about what will happen here. and things like that. When I go out of body, same. My consciousness goes out and I'm in multiple fields in multiple bodies doing multiple things at the same time. So all of that fits together with the whole thing somehow, some way.
Wow. Maybe we should give this a little bit of context for somebody that's just started and dropped in and doesn't know about your awakening or in your 44th year. I mean, could you just give a little summary of that?
A little summary. Okay. All right, let me come out and say it was an abduction. So the thing that caught my attention actually was an abduction combined with Kundalini. Okay, so decades prior, I had these weird physical phenomena that were manifesting. One of them was starting to get very hot feet going into the night. Just ridiculously hot, having to get up multiple times with ice and having to sleep with ice in the bed with me on my feet and things like this. So this went on for a long time, and it continues still, but not to that level. And I know how to process the energy now to get it to not pool in my feet. But that was happening. And a few other things, I won't go into it, but it all led into 1 week where I had 2 missing time anomalies, and they weren't your standard missing time anomalies. They didn't occur here in physical space. They occurred when I laid myself down to go to bed. When I go to sleep, I have an extremely large dream time. And I've always been able to bring all of that data back with me in the morning. I could tell you what I was dreaming at the top of the night, where I was and what I was doing in the middle of the night, as well as what was happening right as I was waking up. There was a time flow, you could say. So when you dream in this way, when you're conscious in your dreams, there's a span between where you've laid yourself down and where you wake up. But this week, there was nothing. 2 days in a row, I laid myself down, I closed my eyes, and literally what seemed 5 minutes later, opened them, and it was morning. This happened twice in a row. And on the very next night it happened. So this is how they're getting my attention. This is how they're waking up my cognition and my ability to hold in my awareness that all of this is happening. My lifetime, it was happening. It didn't occur to me again as anything out of the, it's like you're breathing. Of course you're breathing, but are you always paying attention to the fact? No, it's nothing new. It's nothing out of the norm. So it was like this for me. None of this seemed out of the norm. So I just didn't hold it. And they were trying to get me to hold it. And so the next night, as I was going into the night, an interesting thing happened. I was awake in there, inside my body, inside my physical system, in an experience that seemed like I was being electrocuted, just lightly electrocuted. And it was enough to cause a start in me to throw me back into physical space and open my eyes. And I'm like, where I was still feeling it. But I just fell right back. I just sort of said, right back off to sleep. And I've always been this way. Always. Nothing strikes me as out of the norm. I just, and fell back asleep. And that happened a few nights in a row during the remainder of that week, to the point where on the 4th night when it happened, I said, yeah, something weird's going on here, and I start to finally see that this is something. And I start talking about it with some friends. I'm teaching yoga. I'm in yoga circles at this time, and I'm, meditated most of my life. So I'm asking people, has anything like this ever happened to you in meditation or when you go to bed? And nobody's saying, it has. And I'm like, that's so weird. But in the process of me acknowledging it and beginning to ground the experience by speaking about it in physical space, I'm bringing it more in, to the point where the next night at the bottom of this week, I come fully alert in this sensation of being mildly electrocuted. Actually, it wasn't mildly at that point. It was like being strapped to the underside of a 747.
This is a Kundalini experience then.
And yes, but we're just getting into the abduction. The very first thing that really set my central nervous system on fire. So in the middle of this energy, I feel a force field, at my back, and it's just sort of pulling me, up like a tractor beam that's pulling me out of my body and up into the corner of the room there at the ceiling. And I'm just looking down at myself. I'm recognizing what's happening. It's been happening my whole life. I'm getting abducted. And it's the ones that I don't like to go out to, And so I'm screaming to myself down there for help, which is what I've always done. And but I'm fully conscious, but in the middle of it, my heart rate is just going so crazy that I faint, literally, right there in the middle of the out of body experience. And then just a moment later, this energy comes again, and it's just like, I'm awake again. And this time I'm on board craft. I'm laying on that damn steel table, naked and cold. And there's this light, and the light is at the crown of my head. And the light just scans me from the crown of my head down to my feet. And I'm just laying on a table, just eyes shut tight, screaming at myself, no matter what you do, don't open your eyes. This is not the kind of experience anybody wants to open their eyes in. And yeah, that was it. A few other things happened while I was up there. Then I'm back down in my body. I'm on the floor. I'm curled up on my side. Yeah. And so that was the very first one that got my attention. And from that night forward,
it wasn't the first time you were abducted. It was the first time what had happened that was different.
That was the first time I brought the information with me and held the information while I was back in physical space.
Now you knew you'd been abducted for the first time.
So most people, when they dream, which is an out of body in which you're not aware you're out of body, when they wake back up into physical space, they don't remember. They're just gone. Okay, so although this has been happening to me since childhood, these particular beings coming for me, I just forget when I wake up. I just let myself forget. But starting this night, there's no more forgetting. And this is what I mean by awakening. When you awaken, there's no more going back and forth. It's not like a spiritual retreat and then you go back to real life. Now it's all the time. There's no more forgetting. And that's why it's an awakening. There's no more going back and forth. Now you're just awake and you're aware. And that awakeness and that awareness is going nowhere. It's set, it's foot, it's permanent now. That's an awakening.
So you did remember your dreams before, but not in all the way.
Yeah, no, I always remembered my dreams. It's this particular group of ETs that come for me that I didn't let myself remember. And
where are they from?
Yeah, I still don't know because I still have not let myself look.
Are they still coming for you?
They terrify me. Yes, they terrify me. Yeah.
And it's still happening today?
Yeah.
And you can't make it stop?
No, that's me. That's me up there.
And it's an astral abduction, not a physical abduction.
It's both. I prefer to call them etheric body examinations or etheric abductions because it's just where the astral and the physical meet, there's a bleed over in that area I call the etheric. And that's the space in which it happens. Yeah. And a lot of times these craft are in our local space.
Because Preston, I was speaking to Preston, he's spoken to many people about these things. So he's an expert interviewer. Excuse me if I'm sorry, I'm a bit clumsy because you're the first person I've ever spoke to who's had these experiences. So yeah. So I don't really have any ready questions. So
that's okay. We really don't have to. You asked what was how the onset. This was just the onset of me being able to hold my awareness while in physical space here forward. So this particular experience with these particular beings, it terrifies me, but very little else does. I don't know why I have not ever been able to look at these ones. I would love to be regressed and find out because I don't seem to be able to let my own self be aware of more in association with them. But there's contact with so many other beings. I mean, just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And it's always interesting coming face to face physically. And I don't necessarily mean 3D physically, because that messes with the central nervous system. And that was the point I was trying to work toward getting at the onset of the awakening when these things happen. It's a jolt to the central nervous system. And, my central nervous system, it wouldn't let me stop shaking, for almost a year,
Wow.
while my body processed the information. And as that's happening, and as the Kundalini is working, again, every night at the top of the night, the K comes through. And it is.
Does it go up through Sushumna, or is it going randomly? Do you have control over it rising?
So I was aware of my process from the very onset of the process. So it's like somebody who goes into a surgical procedure and says, no anesthesia, please. And they're aware of what they were doing and what they had to do before they got there. They're aware of, getting into the operation room and all of the setup and every single little thing that happens all the way through. This is how I did mine. And that was so that I could help more people, so that I could see all parts of the process, so I could help bring us all together and, not fighting one another saying, oh, that wasn't, or that wasn't. It all is, it's all a part of the process. It's just, we let our awareness come in on the process where we do. And that's the part that we're working on the most usually. And if it is part of your plan, part of your program to assist a lot of others, then you're going to let yourself be aware of what a lot of others still can't. Because again, your physical body has to be prepared for this, because it is also going to undergo a transformation in which it's fully aware from the very beginning of the onset of this all the way through. So with me, the energy would come, it would feel like that light at the top of my head, it would move down through the soles of my feet, and then bilaterally, this energy would start clearing my whole physical construct. And it just felt like every bone in my body was being broken and reset constantly for a year. It started at the feet, at the toes, and just imagine a feeling that felt like every single one of your toes was being broken and reset while you were still fully conscious. It was like this, and it just moved from the feet up to the hip creases. And then at the same time as this, the energy was working from the crown of my head down toward my hip crease. So it was just like my heads and feet in toward my center. That's how it worked with me. Now, if I were to, and this is just the clearing of the energy, this is just the clearing of the physical construct, period. And this process took a couple years. Yeah, it took me.
Is it supposed to happen like that? I mean, I don't, speaking because I've had Dr. King, who founded the Aetherius Society, he spoke about rise of Kundalini. He did like 8 hours a day of yogic practices, mantra and pranayama for 10 years in the 1950s after work. So he'd do it through the night, and so he developed these powers of concentration. He could concentrate on a leaf or a fish scale or a candle flame for 8 hours without any other thought coming into his mind. So, he's a yogi, became a yogic master. So, and he explained that the pain of rising up Sushumna when it goes through the base of the spine is the worst pain you can ever experience known to man. And then once it rises up through Sushumna, it opens up each chakra one by one, and then you get these siddhis, the powers, these psychic abilities. Have you, because it sounds like you're having such a rough time of it. I mean, it sounds like, shouldn't it be, it sounds terrible. I'm really,
no, Kundalini.
Are you developing these siddhis though? Or have you had, once those chakras have opened, have you experienced greater abilities?
Well, sure. And bilocation, levitation, teleportation, all of this is explained right inside the out-of-body experience. So there's two fundamental ways in which the Kundalini is going to activate and process. And one of those is base to crown, which is the way I'm going to say 95% of those who are awakening in this manner, because I'm sure there's other ways.
Yeah, this doesn't, because you're not selling this to me, Case. This is
Yeah.
terrible.
Do it base to crown. And that would be the way that I would say your master is talking about.
Right. Base to crown. Yeah.
Very few people do it the other way around, which is the way I did it, which was crown to base.
Oh my God.
So day one, boom, I'm out of physical space. I'm cosmic. I'm out of body, as we like to say. And that's the main part of what's happening with me. The part that's happening now. So if you do base to crown to start, you're either going to cognize base to crown, but the system has to complete. Now you're going to have to do the.
Oh my God.
So, crown to base. Now you're going to have to go through the base to crown. So it has to complete. And anybody who does the base to crown is going to have to complete and do the crown to base part of the process.
You have to bring it back down. Yeah. Once you brought
You
it out
have
the box, you've got to put it
It has
back.
to be whole. It has to be complete. It has to finish the circuit. Yes. And so most people, when they start to be aware of this, they're aware of physical anomalies and phenomena that seem to be happening in the physical body and in physical space. But they'll reach a point where they're in cosmic space and they have to pass through universal and galactic space to get back into physical space so that the whole process is complete. And I will tell you, it is galactic space that's hard, not physical space, not universal space, not cosmic space. But galactic space, because that's where the ETs are. And that's where you're going to have to connect with that level of idea with your physical construct. And again, your central nervous system is going to experience a shock of some kind. Not everybody, because I did mine crown to base, crown is awareness. So I'm fully aware of what's happening in the physical body. Is the K is doing its work in the night, whereas most people are just off in sleepland. Okay, so they don't experience what I did, and that's why I'm saying much fewer people.
Yeah, I've never heard of this. The spontaneous rise of like this, but because with some maybe people it goes up. I'm a student of metaphysics. I study this stuff, but I have no experience. So excuse me if I'm just making many mistakes. But I heard that some people send it up the front, and that it's called the pleasure centers, and that's what we've done throughout most of our lives, is that we've done it that way. Does that resonate?
So, well, here's the really unique thing again about having the crown centers open before the base, and that is you're aware of a much fuller spectrum of everything all at once. And what I can see with the awareness center wide open, what I can see is that every person holds their awareness in a particular pattern. Okay, and that pattern is like a kaleidoscope set on a certain geometric structure. And that geometric structure, when seen through, allows your attention, your personal attention, to focus in on some things more than some others.
Right.
Okay. And now put a whole bunch of constructs in here focusing, where the person wants to focus their attention, in their own particular way. And you'll get the experience that a person is going to have of Kundalini. Okay. And so there are, you just can't say that it happens in any one particular way unless your awareness center hasn't opened to the point where you can see that it's the patterns, the pattern of awareness that people hold, that construct, if you will, the experience they're going to have of Kundalini and of anything.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And so you can see there's just endless ways.
Wow.
in which this experience will get experienced and cognized and focused in on, and, people's belief structures, again, will play a large part of this. This is why most people will do the base to crown, because they have to work through those belief structures. I didn't have a lot of any. I don't know if I had any.
But did you levitate? Did you become invisible? Did you experience the cities like that?
All of that. So when I go out of body, it is a process of first levitation, then dematerialization, which I call the experience of which I simply call stasis.
Of the physical body, you had levitation as well, though?
No, I couldn't say that it's of the physical body. When I lived up out of physical space, when my awareness begins to shift, if I am in etheric space, it's, how some people go out of body and they're in their room and they'll look at the bed and see their physical body. Never saw one.
Really?
Never saw one.
Did you see something in the mirror when you look in the mirror when you're projecting? You see it?
No, and I've done
neither of them.
No, and I've even had experiences where I go to look at my hands, and that's when I realize I'm a point of awareness. So yeah, I don't hold on to the physical like most people do. And so I would love to have those experiences. And every now and again, I ask to have them just so I can see what it's like for other people when they're experiencing this. But because I'm in multiple fields simultaneously, it's very hard. I don't prefer to narrow my attention down into physical space. Not even right here, right now, am I wholly in physical space. I'm holding most of my awareness behind myself, looking at myself. Yeah.
Okay. I heard, we do, this does time with yogic teachings that Dr. King said, I think, that we exist on all planes simultaneously, but we not aware of it. But obviously you are, so wow.
It's when the crown center and awareness center are open. What I learned through all of this in part of the process was that mine were always open. And I will tell you what, if mine were, everyone's were. And it's a construct. It's a pattern that's put in the way that makes us not realize that. Yeah.
And are you also able to act as a medium from people from the other realms?
In another visual sense. So one of my practices as a yoni is Tritak. So I leaned more toward yana, also toward yoga, but more toward yana. My disciplines were self-inquiry, Atma Vichara, and Tritak, Brahmacharya.
Those were your practices before that developed you?
Brahmacharya and Shavasana. Those were the 4 practices that I adored. I had adoration for these practices. They were food for me. So
Brahmacharya is no sex.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. Many of my lifetimes I discovered through the OBEs were of warrior monks. Yeah, very, very male. And again, a warrior monk.
Celibate, yeah.
In this lifetime, yeah. And
Shavasana, I've got that one. That's my favorite too.
Well, if you can do it, this is the standard OBE position, assume the position, but very little did I wasn't aware that this is what I was doing. I just knew that I'm more prone to horizontal, even in this field, than I am to vertical, and I've discovered why.
So completely relaxed in Shavasana.
It's just hold the attention at the brow, be aware of the fact that you're breathing. And I could do this for just ridiculously long lengths of time.
On the physical body, or in an imaginary third eye, imaginary light out here, or on the physical body?
You can do it any way that you want.
Okay.
Just put your attention up there.
Yeah.
For me,
mine drifts down. Yeah.
For me, when I close my eyes, there's this pattern that I will do. So, everything for me is patterns. That's why I say everything's kaleidoscopic. But you'll see that, like when you close your eyes and you pretend like you're looking down at the end of, say, a residential block, like you're looking at something at a distance, you'll feel the muscles behind your eyes move into a certain structural pattern that allow you to see at that greater distance. Then pretend like you're reading something that's right up in front of your eyes, and you can see that muscular structure, that pattern rearranges itself again so that you can see that thing up close.
In one of your videos, you also talk about stare at a candle flame for as long as you can, maybe 2 minutes, and then close your eyes and try and get some kaleidoscopic effects.
So this is how Tritak will start. Tritak is just conscious gazing. And when you move from the dot or the picture of a loved one or whatever it is you're going to start working with to make it, yourself able to do it, you'll move to a candle flame, and you just gaze with open eyes without blinking at that candle flame for 2 minutes or until the eyes begin to water. And then you close the eyes. When you're working with that candle flame, you'll notice when you close your eyes, if you were able to maintain that 2 minutes, and you'll build that toward 10, that when you close your eyes, you're able to see the after image of that flame much easier, because it's light in front of your closed eyes. And then Tritak is an internal Tritak where you're holding your attention on that after image of the flame in front of your closed eyes. And yes, this begins to shift your awareness just gradually more inward and outward. And if you can maintain that awareness, you'll be in an out-of-body experience. You actually are in an out-of-body. People want to know how easy it is to go out of body, and then how easy is it to close your eyes?
Right? When I close my eyes, I see a white image of you, of your hair. I've been staring at you for half an hour now. So
right. Yeah, so it works in this way. And, the practice of Tritak just opened out for me in the way that it did, with being able to not just consciously shift out of body, but to consciously shift from that out of body state back into physical space with all that data intact. That's the part that's hard for people.
So was that the third practice? Because you said 4 practices originally. Brahmacharya, Shavasana, and was it
Atmanvichara, self-inquiry. It's the question, who am I?
Self-inquiry, yeah. And that's the Buddhist practice of just sitting in the silence or asking yourself questions. What could you talk a bit about that practice?
It's an awareness on awareness practice, as opposed to meditation, which is more standardly awareness on an object, a single point, a single thought. So it's just an awareness on awareness practice. And so no thought. As soon as you're aware of anything entering the field, you ask the question, to whom does this thought occur?
Okay.
And then you don't answer. You don't answer because you don't know. So now you have silence again for a period of time. Okay, but if the thought was persistent and it says, it's occurring to you, you ask the question, who am I? And again, you don't know. So again, there's a period of silence, and this process just repeats.
That's so simple, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To whom does this occur? To whom does this thought occur? Who am I when it finally stays? And did you get an answer eventually?
What you get is silence. And in the silence, you get all that is.
Wow.
And with that, I had the top-down awakening. And in the top-down awakening, I enjoyed watching the process of shifting frequencies. It was the process of shifting frequencies that had so much of my attention, because that's where all of the data is. It's not in the data fields. There's so little information in the data fields in physical spaces, but it was that conscious shift. And I would be inside my own biological structure, my own biological systems, just letting anything capture my attention. But mostly what captured my attention, I was a pranayama teacher at that time, was the process of just witnessing myself slowly stop breathing. And there has always been a doorway that I have been aware of at the bottom of the breath that has fascinated me always, and so I, would lengthen my exhales and really practice my breath suspensions and hang out, just hover there for very long periods of time at the bottom of the breath, aware of that doorway, but now that doorway opened and I could pass through it, quote, out of body.
So you have done a lot of pranayama.
Well, in my case, that's just how I did it. So my
Mm.
process just involved me witnessing myself slowly stop breathing until I was no longer in physical space.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And
And
so
now
when you're projecting, I've just as I say, Preston's book just arrived, so I haven't read it yet, but I just flicking through the chapters, and it's people and animals on the astral plane, food and sex on the animal plane, astral plane. There's some amazing stuff in here. So have you traveled all through the astral, obviously?
all through the astral. Well, I'll emphasize here once again that it's the shift itself that has always held the bulk of my attention. The landing locations, not as interesting to me, but the landing locations that I most patterned my awareness to focus in on were those in galactic space. So other planets, myself in other bodies, onboard craft, of course, on the table. A lot of ET species are working with me because I suppose I have the capacity to allow that without so much fear that it would be detrimental to my physical body and physical lifetime. So yeah, that holds, I'm going to say, most of my attention.
So you haven't you haven't visited your dead relatives like Preston did?
Okay, so where physical space meets astral space, and the physical is just your beta brainwave. So when your brain waves are in a pattern that's predominantly that beta frequency, we're in what we call physical space. That frequency literally is physical space, the earth life, everything that we're doing here, right? So, and then the astral, that's that alpha wave. So when you're, and it's also galactic space. People think of the astral like something in a dream time. That's not real. It's like, no, that's galactic space. That's when you graduate from your own planetary body. And now you have a much larger experience territory, much larger.
Because all the other planets are habited just a different frequency of vibration.
Exactly. So when you graduate from planetary life, you are now a galactic citizen, which is what I have done, and which I suppose is where I gave it a lot of my attention, because I am here to help people make that conscious shift as far, into that conscious shift as is possible. So many people in the earth life will experience the shift, but they won't even realize that a shift has taken place. Just all of a sudden, one day, we will have ETs here on the planet and stuff, and it will be they won't realize that they won't have moved through the process in full conscious awareness. However, they will have moved through the process.
And do you go to the planets in our solar system?
Say that one more time.
Do you go to our planets in our solar system?
I can't say that our solar system has held most of my attention. Where I go to is where I actually am in ET bodies and other solar systems. But I can't even say where those are. I'm not even sure that we have words for them. The only lifetime I have connected with that's associated with a concept we actually use here right now is the Anunnaki. So I am an Anunnaki in an Anunnaki lifetime, and I am highly benevolent, by the way. So those who say that all Anunnaki aren't, no, I just like saying all humans suck. You just can't make the statement. So yeah, and I've captured him through the crystal. So a lot of who I bring back through the crystal is who I am in these other worlds and these other bodies. I can show them to you.
Because from the teachings, because my only reference is, because I only got into this 2 years ago, into metaphysics, and my only reference is the teachings of the Aetherius Society, and also the yogic teachings. So the what I know about is from what Dr. King has said, in that the other planets, Mars and Venus, are helping us a lot, and that nobody really seems to talk so much about them. They seem, all the UFOs, and they seem to talk about people from other galactic systems and
Mhm.
other solar systems, but they don't really talk about the masters who are very close to us, and watching over us and stopping us, being hit by meteors or invaded, or
Mhm.
because there was to Dr. King, he raised Kundalini top to bottom to top, and so he became a master, and he was actually the Mahabodhisattva for this age. So Jesus was for the Piscean age, and Dr. King came for the Aquarian age, and he's basically a Jedi. So he projected into, he just did the astral projection out of the body, and then went to the lower realms,
Uh-huh.
on this earth, the darkest, deepest, you know and sorted it out, transmuted a lot of very bad people. And so that was his kind of secret mission, and all the teachings that he gave us, because he could do a somatic trance. So he, instead of a passive trance, people coming through and being a medium in that way, he could see these beams. We went into samadhi, raised Kundalini in about 2 minutes up to Shona, and then focused on these beams and held them on his throat. And then he could channel these masters, and he gave us books like the 12 blessings from the Master Jesus, the new Sermon on the Mount, with a cosmic message. So
Mhm.
it's all about the interplanetary ones, like yourself. The people who've ascended and can go and live on other planets, in other classrooms. And then also that the Mother Earth is a living being who's millions of lives more evolved than us. But she's the amalgamation of consciousness of individual masters, many, many millions of years evolved, merged together. So the Mother Earth is this incredible master, this incredible goddess, who we are living here after we destroyed Maldek. Um, does that ring with it true with any of you? Any of that?
Well, as far as my experience goes, I just don't have the type of experience that you're mentioning right now, but this would just go right back to what we were speaking about with the patterns of awareness. And with these patterns of awareness, we can sometimes see ourselves as having missions and something that we're here to do, or something that we may be just highly skilled at. My being doesn't get involved in karmic relations. It's not interested in that. It's often in these wider spaces, worried for me making it back. Because of what we can tend to do with our human awareness. So I work very hard to simply be aware and to observe what I'm being aware of, without bringing my personal thought patterns into it. And so what I could say is that, yes, I go out of body, but more accurate is that I'm taken out of body.
Right.
I could say I go to these other places and do these things, but more accurate would be that I'm taken into certain frequencies.
Abducted.
I'm brought before certain people. I've gone down into the lower realms, but it wasn't me who went there to do anything in particular. I was brought there. And if I'm brought anywhere, I'm brought there to help. That was the very first thing I learned.
Mm.
That and it was how I didn't go into too much fear, the way I allowed it to happen for 4 years, nightly, daily, without creating fear that, made it stop. Um, yeah, so I don't do these things. I'm brought into these areas again to help. So yeah, that
Mm.
first thing that I learned was that we're all in service.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
motto of the Theory Society. Service is the jewel in the rock of attainment.
period. First, we are, right? I am.
Mm.
And next, in service.
Everything's in service. The sun, the earth, the heart, the
That's it. There's no
love. Yeah.
personal. Don't bring personal thought
Yeah.
constructs into this, especially as a 3D Earth human.
Mm.
Or do, but there's karmic implications in that, in which once you complete the life experience, you'll say, "Oh man, look at the opportunity I had," and you'll want to come back and like fix that, or
That's
have
true,
another
really
go at
true.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas
That's what everyone says. Yeah.
yeah, my being doesn't want to. Yeah, it's very adamant. I think it will just end my life on a dime if I start to do anything like that. Or it's not like nothing ever escapes my mouth, but I pay for it almost immediately. Like it's worked out almost immediately, and what happens through that very day.
Instant karma.
And if that wasn't able to happen, yeah, I think that they would end my life on a dime. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, because they're not interested in the karmic.
So how are you of service then if you're brought down into the lower astrals, for example? Do you?
So like with you, there's how you are. There's just how you are, and the things that you normally think, and the way that the things that you would normally think or feel. And so I'm brought in because of that, you know. There's not a lot of judgment in me. So
Mm.
I'm used in a lot of different ways for a lot of different things. And because there is that core, there's a core purity, there's a core I want to say desire, but it's not quite right, to help.
Mm.
That when I'm brought somewhere, that's just naturally what I exude, and what I would just normally think in the situation that I'm being presented with, what I would normally say, to help a person in a situation like the one I'm viewing, is what helps. That, I mean, so there's no effort
Just
to
your
it.
thought patterns, just your thought.
It's just who I am.
Okay.
Like what could help this situation over here? Oh, this one over here.
Ah.
And so I never direct where I'm going when I'm going out.
But I want to ask about these negative experiences, because when you're on this table, which is the one experience you don't like, are
Mm.
you not able to have control and say, no, I don't want to leave, I don't want to go there, I want to go here? Because when other people project astrally, they I've heard, again, I'm just speaking from experience, that they have to master concentration, because if you think of somewhere, you go there in a flash, and then it's a blur, and then you're there, and then suddenly another pops. Like me, every 5 seconds I get an idea into my head. I'd be on the astral like a ping pong ball. So, but do you? So it's difficult for me because I've no context for your experiences. Are you not able to say no, and I want to go here, and please do this?
Well, what's the other thing that you have to master besides what you just mentioned?
Concentration.
You have to master fear, right?
Ah.
So what kind of karmic implications are there if you panic out of a certain situation?
Well, you normally, so I think people, they project to higher realms. Normally, you go where your attention, and if you, and I project to a lower realm.
That's what most people bring back, but that's not all that happened.
Okay.
We're never just in one point
Oh, going back
place
to that. Yeah. Yeah.
at a time. So that's just what they're able to bring back with them.
Mm.
um, uh, and it's what they want to bring back with them. It's what they want to work with. They want to work with those tools to help the space. And, so that there's a reason for them doing that. It's not that anything's ever right or wrong. that nothing is ever right or wrong. It just is what it is. And it is what it is because there is one being the all that there is, and so you never have to look any further than that. But I don't say no ever. Here's another thing that I learned about not creating karmic implications from a very young age. Never say no.
That can get you into trouble.
I am. That's who you are. I am. Is there a no in that? Ever? There's not. So if you
that can lead to abuse and
no, no, this is where you have to learn. Okay. And so you learn to not put yourself in positions that, will make it awkward for you. Or create those kind of experiences. It's an inner awareness that lets you do that. Here's an example. We're going to work, but we're getting a bit behind schedule and we're starting to rush. When we rush, we begin to make some mistakes, but not realizing that spirit is putting things in your way to keep you 5 minutes behind so that you're not in a car accident down the line isn't on your awareness. Getting to work is, right? And so it's a matter of trust. And, and again, an inner awareness, because that inner awareness is what's going to let you feel spirit, your inner being, and how your inner being is moving you and why that inner being is moving you in this way. And so anywhere the inner being is moving you, it's moving you into something that you can learn from, grow from. And to ever say no to that is not appropriate. And so I'm coming at this from the inside out rather than the outside in, where you create all kinds of reasons to not do things like slow down and listen to your inner being.
yeah.
Okay, so just turn the whole thing inside out. This awakening is a process of turning yourself inside out, not being a physical body inside, which is a much smaller point called an awareness and whatever, but the other way around, where you're a point of awareness inside, which is this physical body structure. And if you can live your life that way, you'll be in the multiple fields all at once, and you'll feel the rhyme and reason, when things are getting in your way, and you won't work against that. And again, you create by working against it situations like the ones that you're just bringing up. So my inner being, it moved me here. And so to say no to it again wasn't appropriate. But two, I also know that when you go into fear, you're going to create some karmic implications if you're not willing to work with that fear. So I have karmic implications with these beings that I refuse to let myself open my eyes and see. And we all do. It's not like we ever work through them all. If we work through them all, there'd be no reason to still be here. Except for perhaps as a saint, somebody who can come and go, who can just manifest and dematerialize when they want. But so no, when I get onto that table, no, let me not lie. Let me not say I never work against this, because I do. Because I can feel it happening before I'm even going to be tractor beamed up there. Like I can be here in the room and I start to feel the energy. I'm like, man, it's them again, and I know it's going to happen. They put my body, they'll lay my body on its back with my arms and legs, held wide, and I'll just be magnetically sealed to the bed. I have to go through that whole process. And yeah, I'm trying to work with them to do this. They are so unlike Earth human. They must not have an emotional body. I don't want to speculate that they're, one of the species of the Greys, but, of course it has to pop into your awareness when that kind of an idea comes, but they just don't know how to work in a compassionate manner. Like they're not aware, always of how I'm feeling. And I'm not going to say that hasn't made strides from 2009 to now, it has. They're learning with me and through me how to work with Earth humans. And do I want to help them work that out before much of the rest of the population, sure, I'm signed up for that, because I'm always somebody that wants to help. You know, if I can help 95% of the population not go through this, if I can help them work out what they need to in order for others to have a more workable experience of their first contact, am I willing to do that? Yes. Would I ever say no? No. I do work against it sometimes, don't get me wrong, but not so much that I put the whole thing to an end. No, I'm aware that I signed on for this and that I'm willing.
Okay.
And there's always something, nothing is ever one way. There's always something in here for you. So if you let's say a muscle man, you like to build muscles and work out with weights, but you have a weak spot. Are you just going to keep saying no to ever working that out because it hurts, because you can never make any progress with it? Do you ever just give up? No. So it's like that.
Okay, well, I'm trying to metabolize all this. This is above my pay grade, all of this. I mean, this is because, if I did speak to, it's what you're talking about. People have different, like those people that are abducting you, they have a different, emotional body, or they're working in a different time sequence. They're working with a completely different mental process, and people like yourself as well, talking to me, we have a different, you're having all these different different experience in these different realms at these times. It's hard for me in my binary mind to understand everything you're saying, and I really, what I think I need to do is the practices to get to where you are, because then only then can I understand it. And so I need to do these, develop more to fully
You,
metabolize what you're saying.
you could do that, but then there'd be a wait, there'd be a gap. And I would highly suggest to not do that. I would suggest to be right there where you are, as you are, bringing all of this information in and observing. What are my thoughts about this?
Yeah.
How is this making me feel?
Okay, doing this right now. Yeah.
And then working on that. Is there improvement
Okay.
to those thought structures? Are there improvements to those, feeling patterns, that I'm creating? Did any tight spots? Did I just start, tensing anywhere in my body? Okay. What happens when I relax there and then listen? Things
So
like
that's difference to the self-inquiry, or is that another aspect of the to whom does this thought occur? This is a
Well, there's also a practice in jnana that's called Shravana, and this is attentive listening.
okay. Oh, I need to. That's my
And
job.
yeah, because satsang is very big in jnana, right? And so the student has to be able to truly listen without, jumping its own thought structures in the way of what's being said, so that right understanding can come about. And so one of the things that we often do when we're listening to someone else speak, especially if they're saying something that maybe we're not familiar with or that we have different ideas about, we'll create patterns of stress through the body. Like I have a tendency to hold a knot in my right thigh if I don't like what's being said. And so I'm always more aware of that now that I know that that's a tendency of my own. And so I will relax there and watch the rest of my body just give way to that.
Yeah, I hold it in my abdomen, my diaphragm in the front of my body.
Okay.
From
And so then just relax there,
Hear that? You hear that burp?
Yeah, that's good. That was a release. So that's
yeah,
something.
I didn't realize I was holding that in. There we go.
Well done.
Yeah,
So,
well, I had a little step forward there.
Yeah, relaxing and releasing, that's all the K is. That's all the K is going to do. And so we can do it also on our end from a very highly conscious state of awareness, voluntarily, willingly, so that our listening improves, so that as the listening improves and the frequencies and codes are coming into us, we can see how those are interacting with our own. When I say that there's always something to be gained when we come into a relationship or a communication with another, is that there is an exchange of data. And this exchange of data is happening, at a cellular level, at the level of DNA, of code. And if we allow that, we'll find ourselves being restructured. And I have a certain pattern of cleared neural networking through myself
Mm-hmm.
that is highly advantageous for anybody on the planet right now to connect with.
Oh, so I'm lucky.
Well, everybody does, is the
Mm.
point. And this is why it's not going to hurt us to listen to anybody. As I'm talking to you, if I were here asking you questions, bringing in the information would interact again at that level of code with myself and fill in anything that might be missing.
Ah,
You know, and this is
right.
how, when I connected with Christine, I also connected with her clear neural networks that allowed her to vision the ETs the way that she did so that she could portrait them out.
Because we are all aspects of the one, the divine. No, we are all conscious. Or we have to go back to God as conscious gods. We're all. There is only the one. We all have to. We're all cells in the one. So eventually, so we're doing this all to learn and experience. So it makes sense that you're learning something different. I'm learning something different, because when we finally merge, maybe later, then we're going to be so much better.
We complete each other. Each and every one of us, including the ETs and anything that happens there, complete each other. So without each other, we just can't do it. We can't get it done. So if we're still holding ourselves apart from it, I could go off on another tangent here because I do hold myself apart from separation.
That's a paradoxical.
And because of that, I spend most of my time alone, because most people are engaged in that, and I don't play. I can't, in order to do what I came here to do. But yes, all of this begins to work itself out. And really important to say right here is that right now, at this current time spectrum on our planet, so much more is possible than what is usually possible, that to let any of it get by us is, just
this is the big chance now. Yeah,
unheard
this is the best time in our lives to be alive. Yeah.
If you want to run a 4-minute mile, you find out who has run a 4-minute mile, sit down, close your eyes, connect with that being, with its cleared neural networking, feel that happening within yourself. I am positive you have the level of awareness that would let you actually feel this process occurring, and then go out and run your 4-minute mile, because it just happened. Now, and don't put any thought structures in there that say that you can't do it. I mean, those were just cleared, so don't put them back. My point being that if there's anything you want to do right now, there is somebody on the planet who can do it, and who you can connect with their cleared neural networking in order to do it yourself. Think of how fun this would be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been fun with me with the crystal.
Yeah.
Who'd have thunk?
Because are there photos on your website of the crystal you've taken? I've seen some of your videos. There were some amazing photo. I thought they were illustrations, but you're saying they're photos.
Yeah, because we're on Zoom, I can actually show you. I will when I.
Huh, that will be good. I haven't done that before in one of these.
Oh. And then you'll have to. Can you widen the screen or enlarge it?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow. They look like dogs.
They all look different. Sometimes the same guy will come through, in different ways for me. Every frame says something a little different, even if it's the same being who comes through. Look at Shah there. Look at how clear Shah's eyes are.
Wow. It's like a cat.
That being is, what's their name? Am I gonna remember? They're said to be perhaps some of the first beings who will make contact. Right, yeah, no duplicate. They're all very different.
Yeah, very different.
That cephalopod right there, I went out of body, and yeah, it was a contact with that cephalopod. Oh, scroll down a little bit. No, up. Sorry, I'm
Wow,
saying
scary.
backwards. If you say, go up a little bit more, and right there where the two big guys are, next to Alan on the right, is he on your right?
Yeah.
That's who I am. That's the Anunnaki being I am.
Wow.
Alan is a feline.
Wow.
Oh, my
I've
family
got-
sometimes comes through. So scroll up a little bit more where until you see Dad.
Oh gosh.
That's my dad, my Earth dad, in an ET body, and just below him on the right is my sister Sandy. And then I've come through. If you scroll down on the left there, it says Mesopotamian child. Can you actually see that, the being there?
A little bit, two eyes there and a young mouth, very young.
Yeah, sort of gazing up toward the light.
Yeah.
So that's me as a Mesopotamian child here on Earth.
Frog.
Aleander is a dragon. Yeah, there's just so many. This is just a handful of the Tia was the very first one to come through. The feline being on a craft in local space. She's still out there in local space.
Wow. Yeah, I've heard there are many feline species and also insect species and all different types of, as many as you can imagine, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
I have experience with a great many of them.
and is it karmic reasons that they're not allowed to land openly yet?
They are here. We are not on their frequency. So the Earth is shifting frequencies, making an actual a full dimensional shift from 3 into 4D. And only those who are interested, in contact with the ETs will, come into the awareness of them. In 4D, there's still plenty of people, on the Earth who aren't interested in working with that yet. So,
But are you also aware of the ascended masters of the earth and those who've ascended but are still here, like on Shambhala and
yeah,
working in the mountain?
I'm aware of the concept. Sure, I just call them graduates, Earth graduates.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And do you know about also the primary initiation of Earth, where the Earth received in 8th of July 1964, she received, because she has to raise her consciousness, she received all this energy in the primary initiation of Earth, and that's what's enabling the shift.
That concept I'm not familiar with.
Okay. Just to know.
But those are some of the beings.
Yeah.
And so I can just give people an idea.
And the rest of your website, you can also work with you do consultations.
There's a video here that just explains a little bit about what I'm doing through the crystal. It's a little 10-minute video.
Okay.
So this entire platform is an unconditional platform.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't charge. There's no monies exchanged. If you like to support the platform, if you like to just support the idea of unconditional anything so that we can ground more of these unconditional structures here, there is a Patreon. But like we don't hide anything there. It's visible to anybody. So that there's an avenue for that. But yeah, I teach people, I mentor the out-of-body experience, the conscious shift, all of that. We have Zooms, we do meditations together, we have a healing circle. So yeah, if you go, I'll let you scroll there for a minute.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is my OBE log. So if you, my OBs are really changing. They're really starting to get into Earth history and the 3D control system and all of that, which is really fun. So like I've been taken to the Queen's Palace and shown things that have happened there. I'm getting up on the Pleiadian crafts quite frequently right now. I was attacked.
Oh, really?
Because I experienced a frequency assault here not long ago, just months ago, and yeah, I try to explain that to people.
Was that coming through your fridge? Is that what you talked about? The
Yes.
You were attacked by your fridge.
Well, no, not by my fridge, but
it can come through the frequencies.
So like all electronic devices have mechanisms
pick up the radio even
inside, right, that vibrate them at particular frequencies that other outside frequencies can connect with. Yeah. And so like in that video, right, that man's example was that he could get radio one on the washing machine when he turned it on. Yeah. I think I remember experiencing some things like that in the 60s too, 70s, early 70s. But
what happened when you were attacked? It was the frequency of the...
It was really interesting. I started, again, never go into fear and never attack. One of the first things that we are dismantling in the biological system when we're doing a conscious shift is we're neutralizing fight, flight. And so we really have to get out of that habit of immediately running away or fighting what it is we don't like. And so, yeah, and just staying there neutral in the energy of what's happening, being aware of it, observing what you're being aware of, and letting that give you information that allows you to help others see. Everything is always to our advantage, always, but we just have to remember to state that to ourselves so that we program in. Again, when I started going out of body, I'm like, I don't care who this is or what you are or anything that happens is going to be to my advantage. So if you're trying to bring me down, ain't gonna happen. Any negs, because there are negatives out there trying to do something, you're going down. You're going to fail here. Turn around and go back now. Save yourself.
The 9 freedoms, the first bravery, this was transmitted by a Lord of Karma, Mars Sector 6, and the first freedom is bravery.
Yeah.
So it goes bravery, love, then service, and then enlightenment, cosmic consciousness, and ascension, and then interplanetary existence.
There's your base to crown, and if you're crown to base, it would those would probably likely come in reverse. Wow. But when it comes in reverse, it's like concentric circles. You get it all at once. It's not a linear. It's not a linear experience. It's all at once. So if you can hold it, do it.
Well, I need to metabolize. I think even just our conversation, even not the words you used, but I think that we've had, this exchange of I've been changed by this experience of speaking to you, even on a non-verbal level. So I'm really, I've not understood everything you've said, and it's quite complicated for me to metabolize, but I need to digest it. I need to come back to you another later date and have another conversation.
Oh, definitely. Because know that it's the same here on my end. I cannot tell you the delight I experience inside myself as I meet each and every one of us who are here, to aid with what's going on. It's like, again, it's like food. It's fulfilling in a way that, it's really hard to say. It's just fulfilling.
Because you don't speak to many people, you say, but you do have, I'm one of the lucky ones to get through to you. I mean, so people can see you've got many videos on your YouTube channel. There's also your website, consciousnessexploration.com.
And the board has the website has a forum board attached to it, which is where we are. We're not on social media anymore. Most of us have made the jump off.
For the better.
Aside from YouTube, but I mean like Facebook and stuff like that. So we're on our own forum board. We're creating our own ship, as it were, and we are hoping to grow that. But yeah, the website, the forum board, we do the Zooms. Everybody's welcome to come do Zooms. If you like to meditate, just come sit and meditate with me. Hardly anybody does, but I'm there. Wow. I'm there twice a week.
And that's in the that's a link on your website.
It's on the forum board. You could write at the top of the forum board. So
On the
the
forum board, the
on the
community forum.
website, you'll see community forum. Yeah, and it just
Yeah,
takes
yeah.
you there. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll put a link in the show notes, and hopefully some more people will come and join you. I know I will.
Yeah, that would be great. That'd be great. It's fun to meditate together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It's been really wonderful to chat to you.
Thank you. Yeah, really fun. Definitely. Let's do it again.
All right. Take care, Casey.